All right, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to work on the little 79 coupe project old nanner, and yeah, we've actually got a little bit of work done. I'll turn the camera around and show you guys what we're going to be doing today. All right, so our past couple videos, I think we mentioned someone tried to tow the car, like flat tow the car by the hood latch bracket, and what that did was it bowed all of this kind of out. So I went ahead, I hammered and dollied all of that back straight. And then in the process of them flat towing it, they actually ripped out the nutsert for this side on the hood latch bracket. So I went ahead, and once I got that all hammered and dollied, we filed it out to where the nutsert fit in there nice and had a little bit of gap so we could kind of weld up around it and weld it back in place. And then what I did was I took my little angle grinder and kind of cut the edges back down to make it square again. If I can get this long bolt out of here. So once we had it welded 360 degrees all the way around, went ahead and grounded the head of the weld down. That way it was flush with the insert. And then I came around and just took my 90-degree angle grinder on all four corners and just made everything square again. Granted, it's not an exact perfect match to that, but once everything's painted and everything's put back on, probably 9 out of 10 people won't notice. So I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. It beats having to cut a section out of another radiator support, or just maybe even cutting that out of another radiator support. So glad we were able to accomplish that. Like I said, I think I don't remember if I touched bases on this, but I did do some test spray outs of some paint. Went ahead, and this is actually from about here down is actually a Rust-Oleum yellow. And then if you kind of see, it's a little bit shinier in this kind of L-shaped area. That's actually a Krylon yellow. So two very, very close matches to this original yellow. And there's actually a little bit of that Krylon yellow on the bottom side of this firewall here. So we'll make up our minds on what we want to go with on that. Like I said, a little bit of surface rust, so we got to clean up. Not anything too major. But what we're going to try to focus on today is we want to get these hood cups replaced and get all that surface rust out of there and treated, and so we can get to painting this engine bay. So I'm going to set the camera up while I go ahead and take the hood off. Now, one thing I did do that might help you guys is I went ahead and marked where the hood was with a Sharpie, just to kind of give me an overall on where to put the hood back on. Now, that's obviously assuming that you put the hood cups back in the same exact place as well. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to run a piece of tape from here to here and here to here, just so I can kind of line my hood hinge bracket back up in the same spot, and I'll actually probably mark where my bolt is as well, just to get it as close as they were originally, especially if your hood gaps are nice and everything like that. This one, I think they're actually pretty decent. Let me go ahead and show you guys. So yeah, actually really pretty decent on this side, and it's actually, the fender could either go out or the hood could go in a little bit. If you'll notice, the hood's a little to the side, but this gives us a good reference point to where we were at before, so not too bad. We could probably actually move the hood kind of one of these ways, but we're gonna figure that out. We're gonna adjust all this, and before I paint the engine bay, I'll probably actually test fit the new bumper and make sure everything lines up good, because when I paint the engine bay, I'm gonna tape it to the very top of the side of the fenders. That way we can fix all of the paint issues around the bolts and everything like that. So, but yeah, without too much more rambling, I know we're almost 5 minutes in and I'm rambling my head off here, but let's go ahead and get this hood taken off. One thing I'd suggest if you guys are doing this by yourself is go ahead and get some rags and put them under the corner of the hood here. That way when you take your bolt out and your hood kind of falls down, you don't mess up your cowl, denting it or something. Prop rod will kind of hold it in place as well, so I always like to keep my hand under the back of the hood. How you doing? You can just drop them there. Just like that. Hood's off. Alright, kind of set that up. You guys can watch me take this hood bucket out. Yeah, just put a little rag here so you don't mess up your cowl. And be careful with some of these bolts, especially if they got rust around them. You don't want to snap that bolt off in there. What you can do is you can actually feel the bolt on the backside inside the cowl. If it's super duper rusty, you could spray some penetrant on there, WD-40, something similar like that. That would probably help. Being that ours actually didn't feel that rusty, we're not too worried about it. I know I said I was going to do a tape line to kind of keep where my hood hinges were at. But unfortunate part of that is we've got to go ahead and wire wheel all this off, so it wouldn't have done much good anyway. So one. And now it would be a decent idea to actually maybe put a little bit of paint on the hood hinges while we've got them apart. We'll look into doing that as well. So you got a little bit of crusties on that one. You can hear it screaming. I'm gonna eat my words here. Oh, don't like that. Yeah, put that the other way. This is definitely not something I would advise trying to do with a, mercy, I have to end up with this with an impact wrench or something. Would not advise that. Alright, I think we actually managed to get that one out without breaking it. Great success. A little bit of rusties on there, not too terrible. Clean that up. Not the end of the world. Let's just kind of pop out of there. Oh, man, there you go. That's what everything looks like. We'll try our best to we'll get our vacuum in there and vacuum all of that out, and probably get wire wheel in there as best as we can, and just kind of get most of that out of there, and try to spray some paint in there. That way it hopefully doesn't rust anymore. But as you can see, all this metal is still actually really solid. The problem is they don't paint anything back here. They put the hood buckets on and the hood hinges, and they paint everything together, so naturally that's just going to rust. That's what it's going to do. So it's always good to check those, regardless if your buckets are in good shape or not. So I mean, ours are clearly falling apart. We'll go ahead and get the other one taken off. Oh, it's starting to be a little rough there. Not too rough though. We'll be able to get most of it out. You can just see the dirt and surface rust just falling out of that thing. Awesome. Now these clips, as long as they're the same size as the ones I've got, we'll probably end up replacing these clips, and we'll just clean up these bolts, because I don't have any replacement bolts with the correct head size on them. All the replacement bolts that I have all have a 5/16 or 8mm head on them, the newer style. So we'll go ahead and we'll wire wheel these bolts, and so as long as the thread pitch is the same, we'll put these bolts in a new set of clips, and hopefully they'll be good for many years to come. Alright, there we go. Alright, so we went ahead and got this all kind of cleaned up the best that we could anyway. Went ahead and wire wheeled it, put some 90 grit on my little angle grinder disc, and took most of all of that rust away. And it's still got some light pitting, you know, but world's better than it was. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to go ahead and put some self-etching primer on it. You'll notice our masking isn't, I mean, it's not spectacular. We're not too worried about overspray. Anything that we get on there, we can take off with some lacquer thinner or paint reducer. Should come right off, because I'm just going to use 1K self-etching primer on this stuff, so won't be too big of a deal. So let's go ahead and get some of that on there. I'll show you what it looks like. All right. There you go. Went ahead and got the etching primer on there. As you guys can see, we really didn't get a whole lot of overspray. There's not even a whole lot really on the tape, so not too big of a deal. Here's the side. There is a little piece of the metal on the outer skin missing. It was really just a little chunk, and then I went digging at it and made it a little bit bigger, but shouldn't really cause any concern. Like I said, it is double layered there, so should be more than fine. But yeah, we're actually gonna put some yellow on here now, and just so everything's painted when we go to put the cups on, and then we'll go ahead and start trying to get these cups bolted down. All right, y'all, went ahead and got the yellow sprayed down on there, and this is what I mean by just fog it in. I pretty much just put color from about here that way, basically on both sides, kind of where this the wiper motor would sit, and then that way. Like I said, that's pretty much how it looks now. We can go ahead and get our cups put back in, and our hood hinges put back on, and get the hood fitted up, and then we'll take the hood back off to go ahead and paint the engine bay, make our lives a little bit easier. The reason why I want to do that is I want to get the hood hinges and everything where they're going to be at. That way I can get the bolts in there, these guys, and that way your bolts don't look like this when you put them back in. One thing that I'm kind of anal about is if you're going to have bolts on your engine bay, like your fender bolts and everything, let's say you paint the car and you put the fenders on after the case. That's fine. You can do one of two things. You can put like the gold anodized or zinc plated bolts in, or what you can do is you can go ahead and back tape underneath the fender and then kind of put some soft tape on this edge of this fender and then paint the whole fender edge. That way your bolts have nice paint on them and they're not all scratched up and looking like shit. So yeah. All right, y'all. Went ahead and got the cups put in, and everything's all adjusted and tightened down. Went ahead and put some etching primer on them. That way I didn't have to spend a bunch of time sanding on it. Now, one thing I will say on these new cups is I had to trim this bottom a little bit, as it was rubbing up against the the cowl pinch weld seam. So I trimmed that down just a little bit so it doesn't rub anymore. Because what it was doing was it actually was pushing the hood hinge out a little bit. So that one you obviously don't have to worry about it, but got that all installed, got the hood bolted back down, and everything seemed to adjust out pretty well. I didn't have to do much adjusting on it, I'll say. So, so there's the gaps on this side. The bumper is just sitting there. You can kind of move it, and it's literally just pushed into the studs are just pushed into the hole on the fender just to make sure that I would be able to adjust it, and I'll be able to. This is not probably the bumper that we're going to use, but I know it's a good straight bumper. The bumper that we're going to use doesn't have a header panel on it, so I wasn't able to use that one. But this is a good tool to let me know. I mean, the hood lines up really well with the bumper. Obviously we have a little bit to tighten down. That'll pull that bumper in and basically sit where it needs to. And same thing on this side. So pretty happy with that. Gaps look pretty good. Here's the gap on the back. You can kind of see it over there. So not too bad. Big thing was setting the hood hinges where they need to be is the height next to the fenders and the cowl here. And I know the sun is not ideal, but it's pretty decent. So, but yeah, so now we're probably going to actually work on, since we got all of that done, we go ahead and work on getting a lot of this cleaned up, and also the surface rust over there all cleaned up, and then we'll just kind of keep working away from there. So working our way towards paint. So let's get at it. Okay, so we've had some time. Went ahead and sanded all of the battery tray rusty areas. Went ahead and sanded the frame rails down to bare metal, and went ahead and did the shock tower. I'm sure a lot of you guys were I guess doubting the fact that it was just surface rust, but you can see how clean the metal is. It's turned out pretty good. I wish I could get this a little bit better, but we went ahead, we did wire wheel everything. It's just hard to get a grinder or anything down in that tight area. So, but we did go ahead and get down the frame rail, and took our little took the steering column out of it and all that. We did clearance over here, if you guys know, you know. And yeah, I guess actually I'll touch basis on that a little bit, because most of y'all, if you're doing it, probably have a hard time installing a 93 Cobra brake booster into anything other than, I think, 92, 93. They're already clearanced over here. Don't quote me on that though. But the easiest way to do this is to take your clutch pedal assembly out of the car. I know that sucks, but that is the easiest way to get this done. Because once you take the clutch pedal assembly out of the car, you're not fighting trying to push the booster through the pedal assembly and also through that black plastic piece on the firewall. So once you're free of that stuff, the booster will just basically fall in place once you clearance that, just like it should. But yeah, went ahead and got the lower radiator support, and yeah, so now we're just going to go ahead and fog in some etching primer, and we'll let this sit and until probably tomorrow. I'll come out tomorrow. I've got it to the point now where the rest of it shouldn't take much sanding. There's going to be a couple little things here and there I'm going to have to sand, but the rest of it should Scotch-Brite up pretty good. So hang with me here for a little bit. I'll get this etch primed, and we'll pick up the camera when we're done. Okay, we went ahead and got the self-etching primer laid down. Everything looks pretty good, I would say. Didn't go crazy with it, just put like 2 moderate coats on there, enough to give it some protection. And yeah, so to be ready for paint, what we'll probably end up doing is we'll probably end up coming out and scuffing the rest of it. Like I said, there is some stuff like this, and I still got to kind of sand all of this down. There's little things that I'm going to have to sand down, but for the most part, all this paint's still in really good shape. There is a factory run right here, if you guys can see that, so I'll have to sand that out. And yeah, overall though, the engine bay paint on this thing is not that bad, what's left of it. So, but I'll go ahead and throw that Cobra booster in there. That way you guys don't call me a liar. So let's do that. All right, 93 Cobra brake booster going in. Like a glove. You can see it's fully seated on the back of the firewall. I don't know if you can really tell down there, but there is space. So yeah, it's in there. Like I said, I did have to dent right here on the shock tower, but the easiest way to get those in is just to pull the pedal assembly. Like I said, I know it's a crappy job, but that is honestly the easiest way. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and prep this thing out for paint. We got it painted. Sorry I didn't film a lot of it. Honestly, it was kind of an ordeal to get this thing painted. Honestly, I was fighting a lot of wrinkling issues and some other stuff that just happens sometimes when you paint. I think a lot of it was I used Rust-Oleum as my base coat for the color layer, and honestly I think most of these paints are like 85% reducer, so if you put them on real heavy, they do have a tendency to wrinkle up on you. So I think that's most of my issues. Also had some temperature issues, getting a little cold and dark and bunch of things, but at the end of the day, it's not about the punches that you take, it's how you roll with them or whatever. But yeah, so we ended up getting it painted. I think it looks pretty good. I'll turn this camera around and show you guys what it looks like. All right, what do y'all think? I think the color match is gonna look really nice once this gets polished. Granted, it might be a little bit brighter, but for an off-the-shelf color, I mean, check out them frame rails, y'all. Dang. Like I said, I'm really happy with the results. Went ahead, I'll say it took me about 6 cans to get full coverage. This yellow is such a light color that any kind of dark spot, it really took quite a bit of paint to cover. And as far as clear coat, we put 3 coats of clear on it. This is a 2K urethane automotive clear coat, and it looks awesome. Really brightened up the color. Actually, the color got a tinge darker actually from when I sprayed like the base coat. Once you spray clear on these colors, it really changes them a lot. So if you're trying to do the same thing where you want to maybe skimp out on spending a bunch of money on base coat through the automotive paint store near you, and you just want to kind of rattle can it and maybe put a good clear coat over top of it, make sure when you're doing test panel or test spray outs that you put a good clear coat on it. That way you get the actual result it's going to be. But went ahead and we actually painted up in here too. It's not perfect, but it looks 1,000,001 times better. And I want to show you what the factory did. This is how the factory painted them. Well, you know, like splattered paint everywhere. But yeah, well, not too bad. Super solid. I will say I see now why a lot of these cars on the East Coast and these cars that are not in dry climates rust out so badly in the frame rails. At least with this car, there was absolutely no paint on the bottom of the side of that frame rail. Nothing. So it's a wonder. It's really nice. We did take a lot of work to get to this point, but I'm extremely happy with how it turned out given the budget that we set out to do this with. So I guess let's talk about that a little bit. As far as money invested, I have, let's see, 6 cans of spray paint at $6 a can is $36. So we'll just call it 40 with tax. So $40 in your color, and I'll say I have a quart of clear, which you could go buy a quart of clear online, Amazon or something like that for around 45 bucks. So all in all, we'll call this less than $100. Granted, you still do need, in order to get this prepped out, I did use 40 grit, 80 grit, and 320. And then once I was done with those in the areas that needed that type of sanding, then I went ahead and red Scotch-Brighted the whole thing. So with that accounted, we'll call that another, I don't know, 50 bucks if you're to go buy like the little packets. So we'll call it $150 engine bay restoration. Better on a budget is what I like to call it. That's still coming in at half of the cost that just the paint code mixed would have been at the automotive paint shop here. So like I said, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I couldn't really ask for better given the conditions that everything was done in. And yeah, I guess moving forward, we're gonna go ahead and try to get the K-member put back in place, get the steering rack put back on it, get all the suspension under it, control arms, shocks, coilovers. This car is going to be more of a road style car, road course style car. It's not going to have my typical drag pack on it. We're probably going to go with a set of either 17s or 18s. Haven't quite decided which wheel I'm going to run yet. I have a couple different options I can go with. I guess we'll see when we get to that point. But this is going to be, I ordered a bunch of parts for the engine. That way we can work on getting that put back together, get all the gaskets put on it, yada. So all of that is pretty much in. Once we get all the suspension buttoned up, we're going to start working on the motor. So I'll have more videos to come on that. But sorry it was a short one, y'all, but I appreciate you for tuning in on this fine afternoon. And I hope y'all have a good one. We'll see you in the next one.